A lot of people don't want to go see a psychiatrist or a mental health expert because they think that like mental health is equal to being crazy. Let's go back to the definition that like the World Health Organization give about like basic human rights. Mental health is one of them.
Marieme Gueye is the founder of HI-WERR, a social enterprise dedicated to improving the mental health of girls and women across sub-Saharan Africa. With over 5 years of experience in consulting and social impact, Marieme has worked with several African governments and organizations like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, World Health Organization, and the ECOWAS, advising on public policy, gender, climate, and education. Her passion and work are grounded in the idea that mental health is not just a personal issue but a systemic one. Through HI-WERR, she is developing impactful solutions from connecting mental health experts to women and girls, to organizing mental health awareness campaigns in public schools, to developing school-based mental health literacy guides, while pushing for a paradigm shift in how African governments and global actors approach care, well-being, and stigma. I'm Candela Yatche, and like Marieme, I've spent the last decade working at the intersection of mental health and gender justice. Our work has grown in different corners of the world, in Senegal and in Argentina, but it's shaped by the same belief: mental health should be a right, not a privilege. Welcome to a new episode of the Oxford Policy Pod. Welcome!
Hello, Kande. Thanks for having me.
I'm so happy to share this space with you because I think that I will know you deeply after this episode.
I cannot wait for us to get deep and know each other more.
Amazing. So, to start, I want to ask you, what first drew you into mental health, and especially in women and girls in sub-Saharan Africa?
I think that the first thing that drew me to mental health was linked to someone that I knew that I was really close to. And then the second one is my personal story, and I can develop on both. But when I was 16, someone that was really close to me went through a really dark phase and was going through mental health issues. And at that time, I was really young and I didn't know anything about mental health because mental health was not something that we would talk about. I mean, at school, it was never mentioned. So I actually felt really powerless because someone was going through something and I didn't even know what that meant. And the second thing that drew me then to mental health was my personal story, in the fact that there was, I think I was 20 at that time or 21, but I had really severe depression. And I was back in Senegal at that time, and there was no real resources for me. Like even finding like a psychologist was like so difficult for me. And I remembered when I was studying in the US, in my university, there were so many resources. Like we would have like a counseling center. We would have like psychologists like, available that we could talk to like anytime. But now I'm like back in Senegal after a few years, and just being able to find someone to talk to was like so difficult for me. And that's where I saw that there was a gap and that we needed to do something for women, especially because in Senegal, I say that a lot of us go through difficult phases because of the culture. And I felt like I needed to bring a solution to a problem that a lot of people were going through.
Wow. That's amazing, like to detect that it was a gap there and that it was necessary to do some things to guarantee access to more people, It's amazing to listen your personal journey because it connects also with the motivation to act, and that's beautiful to listen. I know that you work with different global institutions, and I want to know, what did you learn there?
I say that the first thing that I learned when I was a consultant, because I was a consultant at Dalberg for 5 years, and we worked with, of course, like you said, different type of international organization. But the main learning, I'll say, was making sure that the solutions that we were giving them were rooted in like local realities. Because sometimes you can see something that worked in the West or in any type of country, and then you come and try to do the same in your country, but it's not going to work. And I think that when we were at Dalberg, we had like this really focus on making sure that like all the interventions or the research we were doing, or at least like the reports that we were doing and how we were advising like government and all these organizations, was rooted in deep local realities, so that like when it's actually time to implement, those things work in our context.
That's incredible. You know that there is a lot of issues related with the implementation of programs and initiatives, and it's because of the lack of the participation of the population. So it's very important to listen to the population. Amazing,
Yes.
amazing that insight. And I want to know why from consultant you move to found something.
Okay.
What moves you?
I mean, I was still a consultant for sure when I founded HI-WERR. But I think what motivated me to do it was still linked to consulting, because I actually had a colleague. Her name is Aissatou Gueye. Shout out to her because I'm really grateful to her. She's a good friend now. But she was working in an organization called Aske Ventures, and they were doing an incubation program with the Embassy of the Netherlands. And she always knew how interested I was about mental health and all of that. And she called me one day and she's like, okay, we have like this really interesting incubation program, and I think you should apply to it because you've been talking about like, creating something with mental health. And I think it would just be like a good opportunity for you like to do that, because you'll get funding, you'll get like support and all those other things. And I was like, that's actually a really good idea. So I applied to that program and got in. And through that incubation program, that's how HI-WERR was basically born. So I'll say that like it was quite linked to consulting, in the fact that it's someone that I used to work with at Dalberg who moved to another organization who was running like a program, who told me about it, and I applied, and that's how I got into it. Yeah.
Amazing. So important to have people that push us to go for what we want.
For sure.
Really, really important. I want then to go back about the HI-WERR and all the work that you are doing there. But first, I want to know a little bit about the context. So you describe mental health in Africa like a crisis, no, an urgent crisis. I want to know why. Like, why do you think that it's important to put as a priority mental health in the healthcare system?
All right. Well, first of all, I say it's a crisis because when you just go back to the definition that like the World Health Organization give about like basic human rights, mental health is one of them. So the same way that we treat food, shelter, access to water, and all those kind of things, I think that mental health should also be prioritized. And unfortunately, in many African governments, it's not the case, or African countries, I'll say it's not the case. So because of that, I think that we are in a crisis, because we're talking about like something that is supposed to be a basic human right, but that not a lot is being done about it. When we talk about like the budget that is given to mental health, like when you look at the overall like health budget, it's like really minimum. We talk about like 1%, for example, like in like Ghana, for example, or some other countries. So I feel like it's such a big issue. And in addition to that, I mean, Africa, yes, Africa has one of the largest percentage of like adolescent and just children in general. And when you think about the fact that like we are not really taking care of the mental health of like all that pool of people, I think it's quite something critical, because those people are supposed to be the future of the continent. They are supposed to be our future leaders, our future doctors, our future whatever, career they want to take in, but they are supposed to be our future. And we need to think about that and make sure that we accompany them and take care of them along the way.
Totally agree. So if we have to put like focus on different aspects of this crisis, we can say that on the one hand we have a stigma, like it's taboo in many countries yet. Also the lack of access, no? And you were saying something related with Ghana. I read something related with Malawi, that there are only 4 psychiatrists in all the country, that the country has 20 million of people. How we can do with 4 psychiatrists?
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And I think, yeah, that the lack of personal trained workers is definitely a big issue. And it's crazy when you think about it, right? Because 20 million for psychiatrists, and maybe in some other countries the numbers are not as alarming as the one you mentioned in Malawi. But I feel like there is still like such a big gap there, and there's a lot of reasons for it. Of course, there also the fact that sometimes you will only find, even like so when there are personal trained workers, you'll find them in like the cities, but you'll never find them in rural areas, which is also an issue because we need to have at least psychologists there. But sometimes you don't even have like health facilities in certain area, not let alone talk about like having health workers. So I think there's just like so many like barriers that are there that like needs to be dealt with, and starting to think about solutions to like what already exists. If we say, okay, we don't have psychiatrists, what about at least like looking at maybe like in schools, what is it that we can do to train, work professors, for example, or what is it that we can do to have like some volunteers that we train that at least like know like what is going on and how they can do prevention and all of that. So I think that like it's that lack of creativity also that is a problem, because we have an issue, okay, but let's also start thinking about like innovative ways to deal with the problem. And I think that that's something also that has been lacking there.
Like to think out of the box how we can create resources, because like we can think about or design the ideal scenario, but perhaps it's impossible like in the short term. So how I like that what you are pointing out. And I want to know if there are like some myths related with mental health.
Oh, there are so many. There are so many. You mentioned, first of all, like the fact that it's taboo. So, a lot of people don't want to go see a psychiatrist or a mental health expert because they think that like mental health is equal to being crazy, for example, or they are afraid of how the population is going to judge them, because people don't want to be associated with anything related to that. So you also have the issue where someone can have something, but they will actually hide it because they don't want other people to think about them in another way. So I feel like there is just a lot going on. And another issue I'll say is also the fact that like in Senegal, the society is really patriarchal. And you have a lot of women that are going through things, but because of like how the society is, they cannot really talk about it. So you just have like all of these things that are making people like just internalize like everything that they're going through. So whether it's because of the type of society that we're in, or whether it's because it's taboo, or whether it's because they don't want to be judged, and all of those kind of things. And I think that when you mix all of that together, it just brings more problems once again. So yeah.
The intersection also, no, it's really interesting what you are saying, because when I was like reading about your work in HI-WERR, you talk not only of mental health but also of self-esteem and empowerment, and it's related with gender inequality and how that impacts mental health and self-esteem. So I want to know how you combine these elements.
I think how we combine that at HI-WERR is that like we try to really put together mental health but well-being at the same time. And when we talk about well-being there, we talk about it as a wholesome approach. Well-being as in like physical well-being, but as well as mental well-being, of course, spiritual well-being, and all of that. So in all the initiatives or little projects that we do, we try to bring that. Like even when we say that we work with mental health experts, we don't only mean like psychologists and psychiatrists. No, we bring life coaches with us. We bring fitness coaches. I remember one time we did like an event where we brought like Quran teacher, because Senegal is like really like is mainly like Muslim, like 95%. So we try to see like that as like a whole thing and look at like the different components that actually contribute to your mental health, and we bring that together. So we will always like mix that. Like an example can be if we do a wellness morning, which was like events that we would do where from like 9 to 12, we have like 3 hours where we bring together like a group of women, and we divide the events in 3 parts. The first part would be just physical exercise. So we would do like a 1 hour of yoga with a yoga instructor. After that, we would do like a 1 hour event. A 1 hour section where we have now a psychologist or a life coach who comes and talk about a specific mental health issue that we picked prior to the event. And then we would do like a whole period where we just sit down and eat and exchange. So we always try to bring like all of that together, because there's just not one way you can work on mental health. There's multiple ways. There are different things that affect your mental health. So I think it's always about like bringing all of those together and allowing our participants to see that and to know that like what they've done with us is something that they can continue on their own.
It's like an holistic approach.
Exactly.
Beautiful. I like it. I want to know how beauty standards impact mental health and self-esteem in Senegal, because I'm really interested in how is the beauty standard they are, which products they sell or services, or how people reproduce these standards. For example, the role of social media. I want to listen a little bit about that.
Yeah. I think when it comes to beauty standards, there is definitely a thing about being light-skinned. And a lot of women, therefore, will find themselves bleaching their skin. So that's the type of product that they would spend a lot of money on, like some, I don't know, soaps or some creams or some even tablets that they take now, or injections that they do just to be lighter, because that's some of the beauty standards. It's changing a little bit now, but it's still like highly, highly, highly present there. And I mean, it's bad because a lot of them don't even think about like the damage that it has like for their skin. I mean, you talk about like skin cancer that can happen after that, or like some all sorts of other disease. And some, I feel like, can be aware of it but won't care because they want to look beautiful for the society and all of that. And it's quite crazy. And even on TV shows, like Senegalese TV shows, it's something that is, I feel like, highly advertised, because even the actors that they will take, most of the time, it's light-skinned actresses, or they are gonna even like physically look a certain way. Like we have this culture of like being thick, for example. So you're supposed to look a certain way. So that's kind of like what they advertise. So you'll see like, little girls or anyone just watching that, that's what they see. And I think it can be traced back to colonialism, because when you read about certain things, you see that like the whole like colorism and all of that came from colonialism. So I think there is a part of that, but we haven't really broken that curse when it comes to like skin lightening and those kind of things, because they are still like highly doing it. You have like women who are still highly doing it. So yeah, it's definitely a problem.
It's really interesting how you describe the context, because in Argentina, 8 in 10 women live with body dissatisfaction, and instead of like using products or services to light the skin, it's the opposite. We want to put more dark the skin. So perhaps the same brands that sells in Senegal to put dark the skin, in Argentina it's the opposite. Light the skin, in Argentina it's the opposite. And in Bellamente, we work a lot about this, because it's like how the TV shows also, they advertise a lot, but also nowadays social media. And those narratives that we consume every day also impact in the way we see ourselves. So you were talking about, for example, cancer. In Argentina, we talk a lot about cancer, how these kind of products or services can have a negative impact on the physical health, but also has a negative impact in mental health. So I want to know, what do you think of how all these stimulus has an impact in mental health?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's direct, like you said it in a way that, like, for example, if you don't think that you're beautiful the way you are, and that you need to change something about yourself, then you start having ideas in your head. You start seeing yourself in a certain way, and when you don't have those products, then you're like, okay, like this is not okay with me. You start doubting yourself, and it puts you in this cycle where you're just like unhappy in general and all of that. And I mean, like, even when we get to the part where you actually like get, sick from it or something happens, it it makes the whole thing even like more complicated, because now it's not like you're just thinking about like the aesthetic part, but you're like, okay, I actually have like physical like problems. I have like a sickness that I have like to deal with or to carry on during my whole life and stuff. So I think it really, really has an impact. And a part of me also, and something that I didn't necessarily mention before, is I think the role that men have in that is also something we need to talk about, because we in Senegal, for example, like women care a lot about like marriage and finding a husband and just being married. So what the men think and what they want is really important to them. And you will still find some men who will always tell you, oh no, like I only want to be with a light-skinned woman. I don't want to be with someone who's dark skinned and those kind of things. So it's like things that, like, because of like what they are looking for, they are bringing some ideas and creating some creating trauma at the end of the day. They're actually creating trauma in the head of like those women, because like they end up believing that they are not beautiful, that they are not enough, that they have to change something about themselves. So it goes back to the whole like type of society also that we are in, and I think that it's just unfortunate.
Completely agree. It's like a strategy, that we invest in ourselves
Yeah,
to be attractive.
exactly.
So, and it's really interesting, like, to deconstruct and see, because when we are immersed in our societies, we are part of the system,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
we naturalize that dynamic. Wow,
It's
wow. So, coming back a little bit about like the lack of funding that mental health has and the role of the government, I want to know, like, what do you think that governments should do to contribute to mental health prevention, to mental health treatment? Not only funding, but also, for example, having data, because there are a lot of countries, for example, in Argentina, we have a lack of data related with mental health. And data is fundamental to understand a social issue and to work through that. So I want to know your perspective about that.
What I think when it comes to that is, first of all, mental health, for example, should be integrated in the education system. So it's not just about, like you said, just having psychologists that are like highly available in the country and those kind of things. I feel like if you think about mental health in the education system, you can think about not only training teachers, but training also parents. And then you have more people now who can do like prevention and who know what to do and all those kind of things, right? I mean, they are not going to be the one administering medicines, of course, if someone has like some really serious problem, but at least like they can be there to accompany the person along the way until like further help is needed by a professional, and then they can give that. We need to have mental health curricula. The same way we learn about like certain subjects in school, we need to be able to learn about that. I think that's something that I was really sad about, because when I was telling you about my story, like when I was 16 and I knew someone who was going through it, I didn't know anything about mental health. And I think I would have benefited from just, learning about like a few things, knowing like what are different disorders, what is depression, what is bipolar disorder, what is like anxiety, just what are those things, like just in general, so that like at least when I see someone who's going through that, I can like say something or recommend something, or even like be able to just be there for the person. So I'll say definitely like doing something in the education system, and that also includes, of course, like mental health awareness campaigns, providing like guides to students and all those kind of things. And then I think another thing that the government should do is definitely see how they can work with donors and organizations that are already doing like a good job in mental health, and support them, like they can do like accelerator programs, for example, for like startups or just organizations that are like doing a lot of work in mental health and that seem to work, like scale them, give them more resources, and just see like what they can do there to help them like do more work and impact more people. And as I was saying with donors, like look at like which programs is it that they are doing that are linked to mental health, and see like how they can implement those throughout the countries. So I think it's really about like cross sector collaboration, seeing like what in general like the government, so the public sector, the private, and the philanthropy can all do together to tackle this issue and bring just more solutions to the table.
Inspiring, my friend. It's beautiful to listen that, because sometimes we think that no, the private sector, it's the enemy, and no, like we need philanthropies, we need the public sector, the private sector, collaboration between, and yeah, for a systemic change, we need different actors. So it's really powerful what you are saying, and I want to know, because nowadays you are studying the Master in Public Policy here in the Blavatnik School. And I want to know, after Oxford, what do you want to do? Like, and how you see yourself in the next 5 years?
So where I see myself in the next 5 to 10 years, I see myself in a lot of places, to be honest. But since we're talking about the mental health part, and it's actually one of the things that drove me to the MPP, it's really being able to shape public policy when it comes to mental health. I want to be able to sit with policymakers and decision makers, or even myself be a decision maker in that sense, and set the agenda when it comes to like mental health in Africa. And particularly, of course, in my country, and be able to drive policies that put mental health at the forefront, where we, like I said, have mental health be part of the school curricula, have psychologists and psychiatrists available in public schools, have teachers being trained, and having that being scaled all over the country and even like the continent. And another thing that I'm working on the side, and I'm sure in the next 5 to 10 years I'll see the fruits of that, is right now, what we're doing at HI-WERR is really event-based. So like I said, we organize like wellness retreats, we organize wellness mornings, we do mental health awareness campaigns. We also do events where we just connect psychologists or mental health experts with like women and girls. First of all, I want to have a tech side added to that, because I feel like that's a way to touch more people and have more impact. So we're currently working on a mental health AI-driven platform where we want people to actually be able to, first of all, use WhatsApp, like have a chatbot that they can speak to on WhatsApp, and then be able to have like some form of therapy there, but also have AI platform that is available on local languages, because it's not everybody who speaks English and French. Some people speak my native language, which is Wolof, and we have like so many other languages in Senegal. It should be, those people should also be able to receive mental health treatment. If it's not from like a physical person who's there, at least even like from their phone or something, they should be able to speak, and then have that transcribed, and have like some automated response that they get, and get some form of support until, of course, the actual physical and real person can get there. And I mean, yes, so that's some of the things that I want. And just also having like some form of a consulting part to HI-WERR, where we provide data, we have data, or at least we use evidence to support some of the things that we're advocating for, and doing some mappings for some specific organization or donors, or governments who want to do like specific work in the space, being able to do that. So I'll say that it's like a really big and long term and how can I say it, like broad goal, because you want to touch a little bit at everything. You want to touch at research. You want to touch to the like tech part a little bit. We want to be able to do advocacy, but also like be like really deep in like the policy space. But yeah, I see eyewear like as like just the reference in the future when you talk about like mental health in Africa in any aspect. You'll just be like, oh, okay, eyewear will have that information, or eyewear will have that program, or eyewear will know like how we do this and that and that. So yeah.
Wow. What a future. I love it. I want to ask you something related with AI and tech, because it's something very like we know that there is a positive impact, because we can guarantee that more and more people have access to mental health treatment, but also there is a lot of negative impact of using AI. And I want to ask you how you balance that positive and negative impact in your mind. No, nothing. I'm not asking like for statistics, but just to I want to know your perspective
Yeah.
about this.
I think that there is good and bad in everything, but then it's just about like how we approach it and what we do with it. Because you will hear a lot of people say that no, AI is really bad when you think about education, for example, because students don't get to think by themselves and this and that and that. But I think it's just about like how you use it. Because let's say you have a remote area, like in the most remote place in Senegal. We don't have a lot of schools there. We don't even have books there or anything. And maybe by having AI, we're able at least to give education to some people who wouldn't have had access to education. So I think it's just about like how you use it and what you do with it. Of course, there are bad parts to it, and everything needs to be regulated. I mean, like even when we say we want to use AI for eyewear at some point, it will be there would be standards. There would be some safeguarding measures. There'll be a lot of things. You cannot replace, of course, a real person when it comes to mental health and all of that. But like I said, in the early stages, if someone just need some someone to talk to, or just need like some advice, or is going through something that is not that major but that is still impacting them, and they can get like support through AI, I think it can be important to make that available for people. But of course, making sure that there are like safeguarding measures and that everything is in place to not take over negatively. Yeah.
Also, I think it's really important what you like highlight related of the language, because there are a lot of AI solutions that are developed in English without considering all the other languages and all the populations that cannot reach. They can translate, but it's not the
It's not the
same.
same,
And
yeah.
it's like what you were mentioned before, related with how we implement that initiative.
Exactly.
So considering the necessity of that population is really important. Okay, so this was a beautiful conversation. I want to ask you only one more question, like to finish this episode, and it's about your hope. I want to know what gives you, Marieme, hope to continue working in this systemic issue.
I think what gives me hope is the what I'm hearing from people that I'm helping, if I can put it that way. There was something that touched me a lot actually a few weeks ago. I was in Senegal and I did a mental health awareness campaign in an all girls school. And just the admiration from like those really like young girls, and then so many of them came to me and were like, okay, like how do we do to work at eyewear? We want to be volunteers. And I was like, oh my god, this is actually adorable. And some, like at some point we're doing we're answering like some questions I was asking them, like in an exercise, like we're doing like a guided visualization exercise. And a few of them after that was sharing like how they felt about it, and they were like, I never even knew that this was something that I could do, and I know now that I can do it by myself. It made me feel so powerful. It made me have more confidence. It made me know that I can be whatever I want to be in the future. I just need to take care of myself. And just hearing them, say those things was something that made me really proud. And those are the things that like give me hope and makes me want to continue, because I can see the direct impact of like just that was one session we literally did there. It was like my first intervention in that school, and there were so many like positive like comments from them. And in general, like most of the events that I do, even the one which are like with like people that are way older than me, for example, like they always come and are like, oh my god, this was like so needed. I didn't think that it was gonna help me this much. I'm so glad I was able to speak to this like mental health expert. I'm so glad that we were able to have like just a safe space with women where we could connect and go through this. So I think it's like all those positive comments and encouragement that I'm receiving that are giving me more hope, and that are making me want to just do more and impact more people. Yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you for all your work, and thank you for this space. I think that people who listen this episode will enjoy it a lot, and also it's very inspirational. So hope that you can contagious with these values.
Thank
So
you
thank you so
much.
much.
Thanks to you for having me and for creating this space. I'm glad that we achieved the goal from the beginning, which was getting to know each other more.
Yes, we did it.
So love it. Thank you so much. It was lovely.